Hey guys, welcome back. We got a quick video today. We're gonna take a look at Palworld getting sued by the Pokemon Company / Nintendo, whatever it is, however it is. Recent lawsuit to the Pokemon one, and it looks like they're moving on to the next one. It is, you do not want to be cloning Pokemon, you do not want to be making Pokemon fan games, and you especially don't want to be doing that in any way if you're making money off of it, because they're gonna come for you. They absolutely will. Some of it is ridiculous. Some of it is overreach. Some of it is probably pretty justified. So with Palworld here, I think everyone's surprised that it took this long before anything happened, before anything was said, before anything came of it, because Palworld's whole premise and I guess the main talking point within that was like, holy shit, look how much this looks like Pokemon. They're asking for a lawsuit. Something's gonna happen here. Nintendo's not gonna be happy with this. The Pokemon Company's not gonna be happy with this. And then we had like all kinds of comparison images where we had Pokemon that look a whole lot like the Palworld counterparts. Almost reminds me of some of the stuff where you have you can like enter two different Pokemon and you turn them into one Pokemon, and it's like a combined version. Some of them closer than others. But there's so many examples that are just way too close. That like there's just no reason for it. Like, just change it up. Change it up a little bit more. This one's probably the worst, I think, in my opinion. If it was a different color, you might get away with it. It might be different enough. But just that's a fluffy Eevee. That's a fluffy Eevee right there. I guess, and you probably don't want to like directly copy it and then just change the typing. That's getting a little too close too. Now, whether or not this was developed by the people that were making the game, they were like, "Oh yeah, this is good enough. This is different enough. It's like a Pokemon, but we moved some stuff around on it. We combined two Pokemon together, and it's definitely not the same Pokemon at this point in time." Man, there's some of them that are just like I don't know. Am I losing my mind? Let me know what you guys think about this entire situation. But before we get into this, we're going to get into a lawsuit that the Pokemon Company just won. A pretty ridiculous one for $15 million. A copyright lawsuit against a game that copied the characters. Now, there's no questioning this. This isn't like, oh, we kind of changed stuff up a little bit. This is just straight up Pokemon IP that is being used by this company. We're going to breeze through it, read through it as fast as possible. The Pokemon Company has won around $15 million in a copyright lawsuit against a Chinese company that appeared to blatantly use Pokemon characters in its game. As reported by GameBiz and translated by Automaton, the Pokemon Company announced its success in the lawsuit over Pocket Monsters reissue, also known as Kurayagwai Fuke. My god, did I ever butcher that, probably. A turn-based role-playing mobile game alleged to include characters such as Ash, Ketchum, and Pikachu. It gets a whole lot worse than that. We're going to take a look at some gameplay, and it's a Pokemon game using Pokemon assets, and they're making a bunch of money off of it. So, like, surprise, surprise, the Pokemon Company is not happy with that, and they're going to take legal action, and they're going to want some money and or to shut you down. The Shenzhen Intermediate People's Court has acknowledged the copyright infringement and ordered one of 6 companies accused to pay 107 million Chinese yuan, around 15 million, in damages. 3 of the remaining 6 companies were ordered to bear joint liability but have filed an appeal. Wild stuff. So, and that's wild, but what's even more wild is the next little section here that says Pocket Monster reissue. Okay, so it's still Pocket Monsters. They're basically stealing everything here, other than developing a separate game. Launched in 2015 and appeared fairly popular, having earned upwards of around 42 million in a single year, according to the Pokemon Company, as reported by the South China Morning Post in 2022. So it seems like they got off pretty easy. If they only had to pay 15 and they made 42 in a year, that's some pretty wild stuff. And I think a lot of this has to do with the location or where this stuff is coming out of. Maybe it's harder to go after them if they're in China. I'd have to guess so. I'm not an expert on that, but I'm sure somebody is. The game features some seemingly unaltered Pikachu artwork from the Pokemon Yellow box as the app icon, so even on the outside. While other branding for the game featured what appeared to be Ash, Ketchum, Pikachu, Tepig, and Oshawott, again unaltered. Oh no, this was like clearly supposed to just be a Pokemon game. Gameplay of Pokemon Monster reissue from PerezDB on YouTube shows myriad other familiar characters and Pokemon in what appears to be intended as a remake of the original games. The Pokemon Company is fairly cutthroat with its copyright lawsuits, but to some targets, perhaps including Pocket Monster reissue, are more blatant about its influence than others. Former chief legal officer of the Pokemon Company said in March that it doesn't actively seek out fan projects to shut down, but only did so when they crossed a certain line. So there is some of it where it's a little bit of an overreach. I think in this case, they're straight up just making tens of millions of dollars based on Pokemon IP where they turned into a game. I think this is one of those fair cases where, I mean, regardless, you had to be very careful. If you have a game company and you make it even slightly similar to Pokemon, if you start using Pokemon assets, if you start making stuff that's way too close, you're probably asking for a bad time. There are multiple examples of Pokemon fan projects being issued takedown notices despite this. So like the stuff that doesn't cost any money, I'm sure it takes away some amount of people that would be playing a Pokemon game instead. But for the most part, if they're not selling it, I don't really see the harm in it. Now, if they start selling it, they start making millions of dollars, selling Pokemon IP, selling something that is essentially Pokemon, I get that. In 2018, a popular fan-made creation tool players used to build their own Pokemon games bit the dust. Yeah, that's kind of sad to see. It's sad to see that something like that can't exist. And again, it's like the people that are probably using that or creating that are probably the biggest Pokemon fans of all. In 2021, support for a Pokemon fan project called Pokemon Uranium ceased after 9 years of development. I know that was pretty popular. I never played through it. But again, if it's something that, like, even if it's using Pokemon assets, even if it's based on Pokemon, if they're not selling the thing, it's hard to want something like that to be shut down. And in 2022, the Pokemon Company removed almost all videos of a fan-made Pokemon hunting FPS. Like, that's not a surprise. I think, when was that? 2022? Yeah, that seems like forever ago. But there was like a game where you can like shoot Pokemon. Like, clearly, they didn't want that to exist. Clearly, there's probably an argument made there that you do not want your family-friendly franchise, the Triple F, to have guns and shooting the Pokemon. Though not a fan project, the popularity of Pokemon with Guns game, Palworld had many comparing it to the Nintendo Classic. The Pokemon Company only released a fairly tame and generic statement. In response, though, we intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Interesting stuff. Lawyers told IGN a lawsuit was unlikely. All right, so let's see what's going on here. We got this one. We're going to take a look at the game itself, and you can see here this is just Pokemon. These are Pokemon. These are straight up Pokemon, so it's no surprise that if you're making $40-something million a year pumping out a Pokemon game with Pokemon assets and Pokemon in the game and a Pokemon style game, that Pokemon is going to come for you. That is just straight up going to happen. Man, a lot of the spin-off games, the mobile stuff, not really for me. I don't, man, maybe I'm too boomer, but I feel like the whole like mobile and microtransactions and all of that making so much money that it's kind of like pulling games in that direction sucks. In my opinion, Pogo, although the gimmick, the premise that you can go out and that you can find Pokemon in certain areas, love it. Awesome. You go for a walk around, you find the Pokemon in real life. I think that's the greatest thing ever. But the gameplay sucks. You're tapping your Lapras, at least when the game came out. I'm sure there's some other stuff to do at this point in time. But the gameplay mechanics in there, compared to even the original Pokemon games, pretty trash. I do not want to tap my Lapras all night. Stupid, dupid mechanics. Now, what do we got here? The Pokemon Company is suing Chinese developers. So this is back when they were suing them, back in 2022. So it looks like that was ongoing for quite a while. But now, more importantly, the main topic today is the fact that it seems like the Pokemon Company ended one lawsuit and now they're going after. Now they're suing Palworld. So we do have an update here, along with the original story. It's official. Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are taking legal action against Palworld's developer, Pocket Pair. So even within the name itself, like, please just don't. Why did you have to name yourself Pocket Pair? Like, get just the little details that don't matter here and would be fine if you just change them slightly more. Like, maybe you don't get all the free press from people being like, "Oh my god, can you see that? Pokemon's totally gonna shut this down," and everyone's just like sitting there waiting for it to happen. I mean, it's been the majority of a year, but guess what? It's gonna happen. It's happening. The companies filed a lawsuit against the developer today, September 18th, seeking an injunction against infringement and compensation for damages on the grounds that Palworld, a game developed and released by the defendant, infringes multiple patent rights. So we'll have to see what those patent rights are. Clearly, there's the Palworld characters just look like mashed up Pokemon that you took two and you AI generated one out of the two Pokemon for the most part. Or like, hey, change this enough that it's not the same, but it's pretty much the same. And they didn't have to be. Yes, there's 1,000 Pokemon now at this point, so there's going to be some similarities somewhere. But some of those, you got to take a step back and be like, hey, we got to change this a little bit more. We can put this side by side, and we're like, it's the same. That's the same Pokemon. That's just a slightly different one. So Nintendo will continue. So we got a quote here. Nintendo will continue to take necessary actions against any infringements of its intellectual property rights, including the Nintendo brand itself, to protect the intellectual properties it has worked hard to establish over the years. Nintendo's statement reads, the filing is absolutely massive news and follows months of speculation that Nintendo would take legal action over the indie survival game that it's been referred to as Pokemon with Guns. There was like the shooting the Pokemon game, which I can't remember the name of. Or if it even had a name, it might have been just called Pokemon with Guns, or Gunning Down Pokemon, or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's survival Pokemon. It's survival game Pokemon. I personally, I think survival games suck. I know there's a lot of people that love them. So this is not my cup of tea, regardless. But from a distance here, you probably just don't want to stay away from copying anything. You want. Keep it different enough, and I don't think they kept it different enough. Nintendo previously released a statement about Palworld in January, vowing to investigate and take appropriate measures against any potentially infringing content. A modder also claimed that Nintendo has come for him after posting a clip with Pokemon's Ash Ketchum in Palworld. Yeah, so that's the thing too. If somebody's modding it so that it has Pokemon assets, and then if Palworld is enabling or allowing that to happen, they can probably be on the hook for that. That's not gonna help their case in any way. But that's the thing. There's just like Palworld in general, the entire hype, the entire conversation around it, at least for some, like from somebody that was not in game, everyone was just like, oh my god, it's kind of like MetaZoo. Like when MetaZoo came out, everyone was directly comparing it to Pokemon. Like, oh, this is the next Pokemon. This is the next Pokemon. I mean, MetaZoo kind of went down for a different reason, probably, than Palworld will. But regardless, that's where some of the hype stands. Some people wanted to be in on the next thing. People wanted to be in on MetaZoo because look what Pokemon did after 25 years. 20 years? 25 years. 25 years. But 6 months later in June, I'm trying to think of when MetaZoo came out in relation to the age of Pokemon. But 6 months later in June, Pocket Pair insisted that Nintendo had yet to make a complaint in response to the Pokemon rip-off claim. So I've heard some of that too, where Pokemon doesn't say anything. They're not like, hey, friendly, please, can you change this and this and this? They just take action. So maybe some of that needs to change on their end. Just make a good faith effort to kind of tell people that they need to change certain aspects of things. Like here, I don't know how you... if it's a live game, can you play offline on Palworld? Nintendo and the Pokemon Company didn't say anything to us, Pocket Pair boss Takuro Mizobe told GameFile at the time. So my apologies for all the names that I butcher in this video. Of course, I love Pokemon and respect it. I grew up with it in my generation. So growing up with it, respecting it, they don't care. They will absolutely bulldoze you if you get too close. If you fly too close to the Pokemon Sun and Moon, you're gonna get they're gonna run you over. It's like we've seen it how many times now. Anything Nintendo related, they're gonna take action. Especially if you're making a bunch of money. Especially if you're selling a bunch of games. It's is what it is. Palworld launched in early access from Forum in January 2024. It feels older than that. It feels like that was longer ago, but apparently not. It was very short-lived, like the mainstream hype and information and whatever. Apparently there's still some people playing the game, a fraction of what were playing it on release, because everyone wanted to jump on the hype. Hey, look at this, it's like Pokemon kind of train. Via Steam and on Xbox, not to say that there aren't people that actually enjoy the game or that are still enjoying the game, but I think the large majority of the people that bought it, that downloaded it, that played it, and that aren't playing it anymore is largely to do with the Pokemon comparisons. That's where it got a lot of its attention, and even if people were playing it for other reasons, they probably heard about it because of its likeness to Pokemon in terms of the characters and some mechanics. Game Pass title and catapulted to tremendous overnight success, but also controversy. Yeah, and probably one and the same. Pokemon fans were quick to call out the similarities in Palworld, although the indie developer insisted that Palworld is more akin to survival crafting games such as Ark and Valheim than Pokemon. Pocket Pair's community manager even said the team has received death threats over the backlash. So the death threats thing, like regardless of who you are, you're going to get stupid people that do stupid things like death threats. I've received them. We had Dustin Souza hop into a Discord call and said he was going to shoot me. Like, it's going to happen. So even at a smaller size, the unfortunate reality, not excusing it, it's still not acceptable that anyone did this, but to say that it was based on that, I'm sure there's people at Pokemon or Nintendo that received death threats as well. It's just people are unhinged. When there's enough people, you're going to find that one unhinged one that's going to say something stupid like that. And again, not acceptable, fully denounce, but it's a weird thing to bring up. IGN has reached out to Pocket Pair for comment. So we'll see if there's any updates on this, but wild stuff. And expected, I guess. But regardless, hopefully it's a learning lesson to future games. Hopefully, I mean, it would be nice if this could have been just resolved in the beginning. And I'm sure there could have been some conversation to be had. Hey, you got to change this stuff. And yes, it would require man hours on the Pokemon end of things or the Nintendo end of things to say like, hey, you got to change this, and this. It's too close. Cut it out. You don't need to call it Pocket. I mean, they could have hired anyone, but then at the same time, were they just kind of riding the hype that, hey, guys, look how close we are to Pokemon on some of this stuff. And then the articles get written, people share it, people want to play it because they want to see what's the same as Pokemon. People wanted to jump on the whole like, oh, I hate Pokemon games now because they're glitchy. A lot of the people that are calling it glitchy and said that it's crap or whatever, like Scarlet and Violet, wasn't as polished as it should have been. Absolutely not. Is that acceptable? Absolutely not. But it's still a fun game. It's still a Pokemon game. It plays like a Pokemon game. It's still very entertaining. And I'm sure the average amount of hours played on Scarlet and Violet compared to something like this would be drastically higher. Even the people that were kind of hating on it spent a lot of hours playing it. And I don't know, I suggest you do as well. It's overstated how glitchy and how unplayable it was. It was still fun. And yes, there were some glitches and bitches in there, but what can you do? Regardless, I do want to know what you guys think. I do want you guys to join the Discord. We forgot the link tree. Make sure you guys are going shopping at Card Market and all the other places on the link tree. There's a bunch of discount codes that support the channel while saving you some money from the places that I love. And then also there's a bunch of links to places. They're just affiliate links. So if you're shopping from those places anyway, getting yourself something nice, click on those before you do. It's the best way to support the channel rather than sending me money, tips, whatever the flip you want to dip. Just do that before you shop. Much appreciated. Takes a couple seconds out of your day, but it allows me to make the content that I need to make, especially the stuff on scammers, which tends to get reported, false flagged, all that fun stuff that hurts YouTube revenue. Also, if we want to say bad words like fuck and pussy wussy, we can do that and not have to worry about the ad revenue. Thank you guys. Love you. See you next time. Bye.